She died for 3 days, but the afterlife wouldn't let her forget. There are wounds that don't bleed, scars that don't show, and yet they shape every choice we make. Anna never believed in karma. She was a nurse. She trusted in heart rates, in science, in numbers that made sense. Until one night, the numbers abandoned her. It was a quiet evening, the kind that pretends to be ordinary. But fate doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. Anna's car was found wrapped around a pole. The paramedics did everything, but in the sterile cold of the hospital, machines stopped humming. Monitors fell silent. Anna was clinically dead. No pulse, no breath, no heartbeat. Time of death was recorded. Her body placed in the morgue. But something didn't die. Anna remembered falling, not down, but inward, as if her soul was collapsing into itself. No light at the end of a tunnel, no angels, just darkness, alive with whispers. It wasn't frightening. It was familiar, as if she had returned to a place older than memory. And there it was, a river. But this river didn't flow with water. It flowed with stories. Thousands of voices murmuring regrets, half-finished sentences, names whispered like prayers. One voice kept returning, a child's voice, soft but insistent. "Do you remember me?" Anna didn't understand, but the river did. It carried her through fragments of lives forgotten, and suddenly she stood in a small wooden house, rain leaking through the ceiling, a boy coughing, gasping for air, and a woman weeping beside him. The woman was her, not Anna the nurse, but Anna from another time, another life. She was a mother once. The flood had come fast. The river had taken her child. Or perhaps she had let go too soon. That grief, unfinished, unspoken, had followed her, not as punishment, but as a whisper, waiting to be heard. 3 days passed. In the hospital, Anna's body lay cold. But in the river of voices, she was remembering, not as punishment, but as release. Karma isn't a chain, it's a thread. It binds only when left untied. On the 3rd day, her heart began to beat. No intervention, no logic. A soul choosing to return. Not because it was forced, but because it was invited. Anna didn't speak about what she saw. Who would believe her? A nurse brought back by a memory not her own. Or was it? What defines your life, if not the echoes you carry? But life Dharma has its own way of unfolding. She began to notice patterns. The fear of water that had always haunted her now made sense. The sleepless nights at 3:33 a.m. The way certain faces felt painfully familiar, even if she'd never met them. She began volunteering at disaster relief shelters. Floods, evacuations, children left trembling in the rain. Each act of kindness felt like stitching a tear in her own soul. And then, one boy, one storm. He looked into her eyes and whispered, "I knew you'd come back for me." We often mistake karma for punishment, but karma is not a cosmic jailer. It's a mirror. It reflects back the parts of us we have abandoned. Anna's return wasn't about saving that one boy. It was about completing a chapter she had left unfinished, not in her head, but in her heart. The Buddha once said, "What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday, and our present thoughts build our life of tomorrow." Karma isn't some external judge. It's an echo of your own hand, waiting to be reached back. Anna's life wasn't perfect after that. The loops didn't disappear overnight, but they became visible. And visibility is the first act of liberation. She realized the people who irritate you most are often souls you have tangled stories with. The situations you fear most are scenes you left unfinished, and the pains you cannot explain are echoes gently inviting you to come home. Not all wounds are meant to hurt. Some are simply maps, leading you back to yourself. Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in your life? Why you attract the same kind of heartbreak? Why the same life lesson shows up, wrapped in different faces? These are not accidents. These are whispers, invitations to finish a story you promised to complete long ago. And until you answer, the Dharma will keep knocking, softly, relentlessly. Anna's story is not rare. You and I, we are Anna. We are all haunted by stories we've tried to forget. But Dharma doesn't forget, not to punish, but to awaken. You may not remember the promises you made, but life does. Every coincidence, every unexplainable fear, every person who feels too familiar, they're threads waiting for you to tie them back. If this story touched a part of you that feels unfinished, you'll be back. You're not done with this story, and it's not done with you. When the time is right, you'll hear this whisper again. Karma isn't just about the past. It's the echo of promises you've yet to keep. If this story made you remember even a glimpse, leave a word in the comments, even just H peace, because remembrance begins in shared silence.